Now, the first thing I want to talk about is who was in the vision with Desmond. In the episode, we get this filled in and learn more about what's really going on. Woken by machines after the sandworm swallowed him, he was then implanted with a virus. The eyes we saw belonged to a machine and merely appeared as two because his eyes were out of focus. So it confirms that it wasn't Leto II, and instead the visions were misinterpreted by the characters and definitely not by me. From what we see though, Desmond's eye has the virus implanted there, and then he looks up to see a shadowy figure. It did give me big Dead Space vibes, where the main character had to go through eye surgery in the second game. I also love how eyes have been ever present throughout the show as well, and that iconography has been a key to the nightmares. From what we learn from it, Desmond's eye has the virus, and he then looks up to see a shadowy figure. It's such a good scene, and this hooded presence could be what was seen in the visions. In episode 4, the sisters scribbled away, and in hindsight, this was likely the figure. At the time, I know I said it was Paul, but this is more likely to be the figure here. The drawings themselves actually told Desmond's backstory, and we had them going through his life and rebirth. He was on Arrakis, which we saw with the dunes, and then the sandworm showcased the swallowing. This then went to the eyes, which are what woke the character up. Now amongst this, we also got someone in a doorway. It was only during this episode where we had the bed shot that I realised this could have just been the operating table. The dreams happened when the acolytes were asleep, and thus they were triggered when lying on a bed. So I think all these moments in the drawings are actually just filling in Desmond's transformation. Anyway, the figure is one of the dangling mysteries at the end of the season. Though it's likely a bigger character for the future, we can guess who it is by looking at the past. Personally, I believe this is Erasmus, which I'll discuss for this part of the video. Erasmus served under Omnius, who was the machine god of the AI. However, Erasmus operated independently. During an accident, Erasmus was left frozen in a cave for 20 years. The guy basically wasn't attached to update rollouts, and in the end, he detached himself from the network. In layman's terms, this allowed him to become separate from the Evermind, and it might explain how he survived the Butlerian Jihad. Being independent gave him a different perspective, and thus he began his own education. Studying philosophy and science, he also experimented on humans. This of course ties into what happened with Desmond, so it makes sense the figures behind it. Erasmus also has a streak of rebellion within him, so he'd also want to take down the Order. As Desmond mentioned, the humans simply swapped the controlling hand of one group and gave it to another. During the Jihad, Erasmus made a bet with Omnius that he could make humans rebel. Much like our own society, we had structures of power and people amongst us who are way richer than others. He said that he felt if given the right push, that even those people would stand up to the system. Over time, this happened with the seeds of revolution being sown. So Erasmus was a key cog in killing the machines. During the Jihad, he also adopted a slave named Gilbertus Albans, who also continued his experiments. Over the Jihad, he and Albans became like father and son, with this playing into Erasmus's survival. Though the anti-AI law was put in place, he refused to deactivate his father. Hiding his brain away, Erasmus survived the machine extermination. This even came at the cost of Albans, who was executed for using AI. He entrusted his students to move Erasmus, and eventually he was given a lab-born body from Albans' DNA. Erasmus seemingly fell in love with a woman named Anna Carino, but this was all just an experiment. Eventually he divulged the truth, which completely broke her heart. Anna then took her own life, and Erasmus desperately tried to save her. However, she died, and Erasmus then destroyed himself in a sort of Romeo and Juliet thing. However, it wasn't the end. During the Jihad, copies of him and Omnius were shot into space where they survived. We then had all the events of Dune playing out, and Leto II carrying on the legacy. In case you don't know, Leto acted as a tyrant and hoarded the spice to oppress humanity. However, this was a ruse in which humanity would become stronger, and eventually they'd take him down and then enter a golden age. In his death, the scattering happened, which basically involved humans just travelling back out into the universe. Now in secret, while all that was going on, a new AI empire rose up that then fought a war with the Gesserit. From this though, they engineered a peace, and finally, humans could use Alexas again. In all the 15,000 years of their creation, humanity finally had made peace with the machines, and they could once more live together. So Erasmus is very important, and yeah, that's what I think they're setting up here. Another clue to who this might be came from a comment from Theodosia. Now in the episode, we learned she was saved by Valia from the Talaxu. They are known to have experimented on humans from the shadows. The Talaxu are capable of making Golas and resurrecting people from a single cell. So this might be how they rebuilt Desmond, and they then used him as a carrier of the virus. It would make sense that a robot AI like Erasmus is in league with a secretive collective like this who could operate in secret. Very, very secret. Does somewhat fit their MO.